going on, everybody? It's your boy Arys Déjan checking in. Listen, today's guest episode is amazing. After listening back to it, man, a lot of gems. I'm actually moving around right now, so I couldn't sit at the table with the mic to record this quick intro. So I'm recording it off of my iPhone on the voice notes app. I'm gonna send it to myself and then edit it back. But listen, after listening back to today's episode, sitting with Karlene Millwood, I was like, wow, I was really blown away. I wish this episode came out earlier than planned. You know what I mean? Because we had so much content in the queue, and we just had to put her episode in line. But I would have cheated and released this one earlier just because of the subject matter. I think whatever we're speaking about in today's episode really needs to be heard and listened to and sort of followed in today's day and age. We speak a lot about purpose, love, the difference between being alone and feeling lonely. But we also get to know Karlene. So look her up, look at the description, because you'll get links to who she is as a person and as a queen, as an entrepreneur, and just all the things that she's about. You know, the episode is just really, I just love it. I like it. I love the quality of it. I love the conversation. And it's definitely a gem for all of you. So boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, club members, thank you for supporting the show. Enjoy today's guest episode. We'll be back next week with a guest spot. And for those who don't know, the guest spot episodes are when I show up as a guest on someone else's platform. So we call those guest spots, all right? So because you all have to get to know me as well, not just the guests that I invite onto this platform. Of course, I have the solo episodes in between, but I want you to get to know me as your host and the leader of this club as well. So shout out to Karlene Millwood. Shout out to those who I have collaborated with. Shout out to those who I'm collaborating with now. And shout out to the ones who are coming, who I have not met yet, but will soon collaborate with. I love you all. I love myself. Continue to push, create, just be yourselves, all right? And remain in your element. We'll touch base in a week. 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Who and How Club. It is your boy Arys Déjan checking in once again. It is a Monday afternoon, a beautiful Monday afternoon. It's kind of hot in the city of Toronto, but we're in the West End today. And we got some good vibes going for today. I got a real special guest sitting across from me. You know, if you're a first-time listener, just to give you a quick rundown of the Who and How Club and what it represents, this is the space where we discuss who you are and how you became the you that you are. I believe that we pretty much, you know, we are the who's and how's of this world. We run the world. A lot of the times we're so busy doing things, we don't take the time out to really reflect on who we are as people and how we define ourselves. A lot of us, we define ourselves by our names, also by what we do, what we acquire throughout this life, you know. We might define ourselves by our successes or our failures. But is that really who we are as individuals? How do we define ourselves? So this is the space where we explore that together, because there is no right or wrong answer. It's really just, you know, figuring out different ways to define ourselves as a collective. We all share this common thing called life. We're all experiencing it in our own unique and individual ways, but we're connected at the same time. So this is the safe space where you can just talk about things like that, deep concepts like that. And I have a lovely individual sitting next to me today who I met not too long ago. So this is sort of like a quick runaround for me and for the show. But I was wondering if you'd want to introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, Arys. It's so good to see you again. And
Yes, it is.
yeah, we met a month ago, a month and a half.
It's been about a month.
It's been about. And again, thank you so much for having me, for inviting me on your show. So my name is Karlene Millwood.
Yes. Let's do some hand claps for Karlene, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the club. Karlene.
Thank you so much. It's great being here.
Yes, and as you mentioned, you and I met about a month ago. We actually met in the same space that we're in, not necessarily this room per se, but within this building because there was an event happening. So for those who are watching, we're actually shooting today's episode at Messiah Women's Network Society and also Messiah Professional Business Center, Inc., which is a space, a non-for-profit and for-profit organization that is run by a mutual colleague of ours, and I'm sure she'll be on the show eventually. We'll talk about her later on in the show, and if it wasn't for her, you and I probably wouldn't have met, right?
Definitely not.
So it's been about a month since you and I first interacted, and I said, the moment I spoke with you, I said, I want Karlene on the show. You know, I wanted to get you on here. I reached out to my management and I'm like, let's schedule something ASAP, to keep that energy up.
Right.
I felt like our conversation was pretty deep just for like a little brief encounter. Would you agree?
I think so. I mean, even the chef came out that evening and was like, wait a minute, do you mentor youths? Because I'm listening to you and I'm starting to feel alive. I need to talk to you some more. So that was that's a nice compliment for me that I actually have something to say that people want to hear. Yes. So that's really good. Yeah,
I was very inspired when speaking with you. I learned a lot, not only about you or what you do, but a lot about myself and
that's great.
Entrepreneurship. And you kind of flamed you fanned a flame that was inside of me. You gave me some answers that I had some questions to for a while, and I was like, I need to change my mindset on certain things, and look at certain things like as a business. And ever since that conversation, my crew and we've been talking. There's been a lot of business talk.
That's fantastic.
So
I
want to commend you for inspiring that in me.
That's so good. You know what? And it's coming, you said that right on time, because last Monday, a week exactly, I woke up and one of the first messages I saw on my LinkedIn Messenger page was from a young lady. And she sent me a message. She says, I just wanted you to know that since you did the session with the AAP in last November, AAP is the Association of Administrative Professionals. I did a session with them. And she said, because of you, in May past, I started my online administrative business, offering administrative services to other people. So I just wanted to send you this message to say thank you so much, because if it wasn't for you, I would not have started this. So this is so good for me to hear that from you too. This is amazing.
Yeah, you're on a roll with everybody that you sort of interact with.
That's fantastic.
And I think you're an amazing soul because you have such grace to you. And when you were speaking with me, it didn't feel like you were preaching at all. You were really just sharing a lot of gems that I was able to walk away with and utilize it in my own life and in my own creations that you're a part of today. So I felt like it would only make sense to invite you on here and to thank you publicly. And
that's amazing.
Let you know that you inspire me. Not a lot of people do. So.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. You know what that tells me? It tells me I'm living my purpose. It tells me that I'm living my purpose, and I just wanted to say publicly to you, thank you, and to all the others who are allowing me to do that. Because it's one thing to have a purpose, but if you don't have the people to serve, you don't, if it's like me, I created this wonderful meal, and I say I'm a chef, let's say, but if I have no one to serve, what's the point, right? So thank you for giving me the space to actually live out my purpose, even if it was just in a brief conversational moment.
Conversation. And that conversation will continue today, and hopefully other people, based on our conversation today, others will feel inspired and the way that I did when we first met, and hopefully they'll walk away with something and some sort of flame inside of them will be fanned as well.
I hope so.
After they hear us talk today. So I want to get into, we're gonna circle back to purpose, right? And your purpose, living your purpose, defining your purpose, or if our purpose is already laid out for us. We're gonna talk all about that.
All right.
But we ask everyone who comes onto the show, the main question, the theme of the show is like, who are you?
Now, that is so interesting again. last week I changed my profile picture on my Facebook page. And whenever I put my picture up, I always have a message alongside with it, because people tend to just look at the picture and then everybody's like, oh my God, you're so beautiful, blah, 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 blah. Thank you very much. But I always say to them, thank you guys, but I don't really need that validation. I want you to read the message that's attached to the picture. And what I wrote in my caption is, leadership is more about who you are and less about what you do. And then underneath it, I listed a whole bunch of I ams. It says, I am a woman of wisdom. I am a woman of purpose. I am different things. I wish I had my phone. I could read it all off for you. But, I said, I'm surrounded by the best and the brightest. If they aren't, they will change. And if they don't change, they will be removed. And I just came down the list. So you rightly said that most people identify with external things as opposed to the intrinsic attributes of who they are, who they're supposed to be. And one of the reasons that happens is because they don't know, right? There is such an identity crisis in the world. But most people don't even know or understand that they're having an identity crisis. And that is why you see so much of what you're seeing going on in the world. Majority of the people in the world are insecure. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, because number one, if you don't know who you are, you don't really have anything to stand on, because your I am is really your foundation, right? And that little sentence goes so much deeper than just saying it. Your I am is your foundation. I'm a very spiritual woman, and I'm Christian spiritual, because I know people define spirituality differently. So my spirituality stems from the Judeo-Christian faith.
Yes.
I am very proud of that, very open about that. And one of the reasons I'm open about that is because that is an intrinsic part of my identity, right? Now, my I am is my foundation. So if you know the Bible, there's a scripture where God was speaking to Moses when he was sending him down to Egypt to take the Israelites out from Pharaoh.
Yes.
And Moses asks him, who should I say sent me? And he says, tell them I am that I am. Right? So I have gotten this revelation, which in Christianity, it's a deep spiritual insight into something, that whenever I say I am, I have positioned myself to say, this is the side that I am on. I am on the side of the I am, and anything else that I say after those two words has to be in alignment with who he is. So therefore, I can never say anything negative about myself, because there is nothing negative about I am, right? I am the I am. He is God. If you can find one negative thing about God, I will pay you myself. So I am a woman of wisdom. God is a God of wisdom. I have to say things that are in alignment with who he is, because I have now said that my identity is rooted in I am, in my God. And it is so because he says that he created us out of himself. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's missing in people and defining their identity, because you can never have an identity outside of the creator, out of where you came from in the first place, right? It's like me disowning my parents.
Yes.
Right? I can disown my parents all I want, but I still did come from somewhere.
Yes.
Right? So when I say I am, and every one of us is the same thing. The minute you say I am, you're saying that, you're coming out of him, but it doesn't seem that way, because to you it's just a part of speech.
Right.
But when you think about it deeply, that's exactly what you're doing.
When you posted that on Facebook, was that, like, I'll write I ams, right? In my journaling throughout my week and stuff like that. And they kind of serve like maybe like affirmations, right? That reminders to oneself, like I am this, I am that, because you're when you say things out loud, you can make those things they become real.
Absolutely.
Not just keeping them in your mind or in your heart, but speaking them out loud and actually believing in those things because they're connected to something higher, right?
Absolutely.
When you posted that on Facebook, was that sort of like not only like a reminder to yourself of who you are, but maybe aiming to inspire people to also, you know, use those as like maybe affirmations or come up with their own I ams? Because you said you made a list of I ams,
Yes.
right? Like, what was your purpose or your goal with the I am?
It was definitely for inspiration. I want people to think about it. I wanted it to be an example to say, if you're thinking about who you are, I want you to think about it in this manner, as opposed to saying, who are you? Well, you know, I'm a computer scientist or I'm a teacher. Those are all extrinsic values, but who are you intrinsically, right? But at the end of it,
Titles. Those are just titles.
Those are just titles.
Even your name.
Even
It's
your
just
name is
title.
just
Yeah.
a title.
Yeah.
And you see now, we're going to talk about that. Let's float that as a balloon for a moment. But what I wanted to finish that, the list of I ams that I said,
Yes.
right? At the bottom, the last line of it, I said, now that I've introduced myself to you, tell me, who are you? Right? And so it was challenging for some people because they were so accustomed to just looking at my picture and go, wow, you're so beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. And I'm saying, thank you guys, I've heard it all before. And I appreciate it, but I really don't need the affirmation. What I want you to do is to read the message and answer the question. So I did send them back to answer the question. And one person said to me, if you're going to post a message like that, don't ever put your picture because you're distracting us. And it's funny that he said that because...
Was it a hot gal picture? Why would they say that?
It was not a hot gal picture. It was just a selfie that I took of my, selfie that I took, and I just posted it up there. And I thought of that scene in The Matrix because I'm a movie buff. You know, I work in the movie industry too.
Yeah.
So I thought of that scene in The Matrix when Neo woke up. And him and Morpheus were walking down the street, and Morpheus was trying to indoctrinate him about what the Matrix is.
But he was distracted.
He saw this gorgeous girl walking up in the red dress, and he's just like, he turns around to look at her, and he turns back, and bam, there's a barrel of a gun pointed right between his eyes, right? And I said, that's exactly what happened with that picture. Because here's a message for you, but all you're focused on is the face of the woman who's there, and you're missing out on the things that you're supposed to be seeing. So when my friend said to me, don't do that, I said, it's time for you all to wake up out of the Matrix. So he's,
How can people like control how distracted they are? You know, like is it like a choice one has to make? Like if you show me a picture and it's like, yeah, I am attracted to that picture, but it's my decision to read any type of description that's associated with that, because you, on the other side, you're posting the picture to grab someone's attention. Because
I'm changing my profile picture. That's what I'm doing.
Because sometimes that's what we do on the platforms that have been created now. That's what is being done. We're posting certain things like the imagery to capture attention, and then hopefully the words attached to those photos, or the caption will reel people into the depth of what you're trying to convey. But I think it's like an individual thing. Some people are able to stay connected to both, like pay attention to like, oh, that's a great photo, and those are inspiring words. And then some people can only be tapped into the imagery,
right? Because
that's how they are. They're visual learners.
They're visual, exactly.
So any captions or any text associated with it, it's out of sight, out of mind for them,
Yeah.
So how do we get people to pay attention to the important stuff? Do I have to post a hot boy picture? Because sometimes when I post a picture of just my quotes, folks don't really give me that much attention. But when I post a picture of my face or my body or something like that, it's like, okay, all the likes come in and all the attention, and I get a bunch of DMs from the girls. It's like, you weren't there last week when I posted something. But it's like, why does that spark such a thing for us? Like, what is it?
It's because
it ignites, I
think people are just accustomed to it. Because listen, when Facebook just started, it's a social place, right? People just go there to connect with friends, have fun. Hey, what you doing? What you been up to? Blah, blah, blah. But people got wiser and said, hey, wait a minute, this is a medium that I can use for business.
Yes.
This is a medium that I can use for inspiration.
Right.
And I can use it for different things, not just that. So I think people are still a little bit conditioned from the original programming.
Yes.
And for some people, it takes a little while for them to, the hardest thing to change on the planet is another person's mind, right? The hardest thing to change is the human mind. It's the most valuable thing on the planet, but it's the hardest thing to ever change.
Can you think of something that you've changed your mind on recently?
Oh my gosh, I changed my
someone
mind
that changed your mind
all the time.
Whether it was like an ideal or just any, a way of life or your perspective on something. Has anyone changed that for you recently, or?
Recently, I don't know, but definitely, there's a way that I used to think about, what was it? There's so many. Which one do I grab? There's so many things, because I used to have this way of thinking where everything was like, how do I describe it? All right, I'm going to put it this way. Women have a way of thinking about men. And in my younger days, when I used to go clubbing and I used to hang out with a different type of crowd,
yes,
I was thinking along the same lines as them. And then Steve Harvey came out with his book, Act Like a Man, Think Like a Woman. And I definitely had my opinions about it. And I remember I started posting it on Facebook. And then a gentleman, he came and he corrected me, and he says, absolutely, Steve is correct. Because I was disputing everything he said. Why would I want to act like a man and think like a woman? I'm a woman. I need to think like a woman.
Yes.
And so the man was saying, no, you have to understand what he's saying. If you don't know how men think and you don't know what to expect from them, you're never going to be able to master this game that you say you're playing or you're trying to get a handle on. And
right.
He really took me to school on the whole subject. And I ate humble pie. For the first time, I decided, you know what, let me come off of my high horse for a minute.
Yes.
And actually absorb what he's saying to me and see if it makes sense. And what that pushed me to do was to reread the book based on what he was saying to me. And I got a whole new level of understanding of what Steve was saying, because my mind was just set one way, right? And so somebody came along and changed. I think that was a very important topic for someone to actually change my mind on. And what that did for me, it created a cascade of saying, when somebody else comes to you with a different opinion than you have, step back and listen, because you're not always right. Right. And that was such a defining moment in my life that I still, that still fuels me. I still think that way on certain things. When someone says something, I'm not quick to shut them down. I'm like, whatever, I know better than you, blah, blah, blah. I listen. I think about their perspective. And then one day I learned that everybody is at a different level of growth. And as a result of that, people are all going to think differently. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily wrong. Well, sometimes they're outright wrong. Yeah. But it just means that because of their level of growth, this is where they think, and this is how they think.
It's based on their experiences as well.
But this is it.
Yeah,
right?
we're like I said, like we're sharing this common thing called life, but we're experiencing it very differently, individually, right? Yep. So how can we fault someone for coming with their perspective when maybe that's just what they've been exposed to? That's the experience of their lives, I'm
going to use this cup as an analogy.
Yeah. Right?
There are two sides here. So I'm holding this cup. You're seeing that side. I'm seeing this side.
Yeah.
And if I look on this side, I see something that looks like a microphone. What do you see on your side?
I see letters.
You see letters. And you're going to say to me, there's no microphone on this cup because all I'm seeing is letters. And I'm going to be saying, there are no letters because I'm seeing a microphone. Which one of us is wrong? None of us. We're both right. It's just that we're seeing a different side of the cup, right? And that's what it is. And once I learned that, I said, wait a minute. It's so important to actually listen to people and hear what they're saying, because sometimes you're actually saying the same thing.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right?
And
You're
just a
actually
different
saying the same thing.
There's
but
so many ways to say
That's
things,
it.
right?
That's
So, but you're saying nothing's worse than the realization of, yo, we're saying the same thing just in a
Exactly.
different way. Why are we bickering? Why can't we kind of meet in the middle here?
Exactly.
I have a lot of those because I can be a bit stubborn at times. So I just, if I'm not hearing what I like to hear, I don't want to talk. Don't even bother. But I'm learning what you just said, understanding that everyone's coming from a different perspective, and it's okay to learn from each other. Even if you don't agree with what they're saying, you're still going to learn something about that person's perspective or experience.
Yes.
Like, no one's experience is above anybody else's. We're all alive, and, you know, it's okay to have your own and to bring it to the table when we meet and discuss it, and to pick each other's brains. And, you know, if you feel like something is wrong, like, you should be able to come out of a conversation unscathed. Yeah. Like a healthy debate, you know? Yes. Yeah. On things that we might not agree on, but, you know, let's still talk about it. Let's have those uncomfortable conversations.
It's so true. And as a result of that, coming to that level of understanding, instead of going, no, you are wrong, I don't even want to hear, I'm saying, may I make a suggestion? I've learned to say that so much, right?
I like that.
Right? May I make a suggestion? Or could you do me a favor? Think about it from this angle. Right? Or
I'm
think
worse
about it
than that.
way.
Sometimes I'll look under the table and say, see my shoes? Put them on for a second. Like, I'm animated with my, like, trying to convince someone. Like, I'm learning. Don't judge me, right?
Trust me.
I'm so, like, even last night I had a conversation with someone and I had to be like, just do me a favor. Look, just put my shoes on for a second. Let's switch shoes. And just hear, you know, and it's hard. It's hard to, like, you know.
Yeah, it is. And where I am and the way I do what I do now, it took time for me to learn to do that. That the level of diplomacy that I have and that I bring to conversations, it wasn't always there. So that was learned over time.
I'm gonna try that.
Right?
May I make a suggestion?
May I make a suggestion? It's just this easy. And you know, this is the thing. One of the biggest things for me, and I think probably one of the most valuable things as I become the person that I'm becoming, this thing about identity, once I learned who I was and understand who I was, became comfortable with that person, I became more confident as a woman and as an individual. And as a result of that, I don't always have to feel like I have to be right. Right? So if I'm
when you're confident in yourself, when you're aware on a level like no other.
Exactly.
It's not about being right.
It isn't. No. Right? It isn't. And even if I'm having a conversation and I know that the other person isn't getting it, I know that my point is correct and they're not getting it, it's okay for me to say, okay, I hear you. And just leave it as is.
Can we cheers to that, please?
Yeah.
Let's cheers. Let's cheers to
there you go.
Being able to change our mindsets.
Absolutely.
Being receptive to other people's opinions and perspectives of life and their experiences.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And growth.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Who and How Club. If you haven't noticed by now, this is pretty much the reason why she's on the show. You could see why, because, you know, the types of conversations that we're having right now, you know, there are things that we speak about on the show, but also with the people that are in my life, the people I come across and the things that we discuss. These are things that I like to speak about. Today's like a selfish episode because I knew, like I said, you inspire me, and I know that the things that we would speak about are in line with. They're going to spark some things in my mind as well and in my heart, you know, because I'm all about growth. I'm all about trying to do things in a different way, especially when you realize, like, you know what, that way's not working anymore. That frame of mind isn't working anymore. Being so shut off and cutthroat isn't working anymore. We have to just be open and okay with other people's perspectives and stuff like that. Yeah,
you see, this thing about shut off, I know that really well. I used to have walls, like, I don't even know, the Great Wall of China had nothing on my walls, you know what I'm saying? Had walls everywhere. But the thing with walls, it doesn't only keep things out, it boxes you, locks you
Isolation.
in, right? Isolation, prison. And so I had to learn to let those walls down, and it wasn't a one-time thing, it was a process.
Did someone sort of guide you through that, or was that something you learned on your own, or
a lot of my transformation,
reading?
a lot of the transformation that I went through to be here, it's through spirituality, right? And on my own. I did therapy way back in the days, but that was for something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And so where I am now, it's because of my spirituality, and I learned a lot from my spirituality, and just this little book called the Bible. Many people have
the bestseller,
the bestseller of all time. A lot of people have their views about the Bible. They may not agree with me that it's a wonderful book to read, but I find such life skills in the book. It's amazing. And so I find a lot of business skills in there.
In the Bible,
relationship skills, leadership skills, entrepreneurship skills, and personal development skills. So a lot of who I have become is as a result of my spirituality and doing a lot of reading and self-development on my own, right? And I grew to understand the importance of developing self, because until self is developed, you're going to sabotage other areas of your life, right? And so this is why, I don't know, is it okay to talk about my business? Is it okay to mention my business?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
We were going to get into that. But
okay, that's okay. So all I'm going to say is this is why I do personal development as a part of the solutions that I offer in my business, right? Because I know the importance of it. And it's the people that have gone through my program have actually come back and go, wow, I didn't even know that, right? I did a seminar with some people. Was it this past February? I think so. Anyway, I did a seminar with some people, and based on the conversations that we were having, it was about the Black family and the role that women play in the Black family. I started having some conversations about relationships and choices and the kind of choices that we make, and sometimes we are to blame for the breakdown of our relationships because we didn't choose properly. And the reason why we didn't choose properly is because we're not clear on what we want. And it's
when
about
you say
clarity.
You didn't choose properly, you mean the mate?
We didn't choose the mate properly.
Okay.
And so I started to talk about clarity and the importance of clarity in all of our life, because if we don't have clarity on things, then our decisions are going to be weak. And weak decisions lead to a weak life. And one of the panelists, she picked it. I was hosting, one of the panelists picked it up and she goes, "Wait a minute. What you're saying to me is foreign right now. What do you mean clarity and choices and whatnot? I just get up every day and I make a choice based on." And I said, "Okay, well, this is where you're missing it." And she goes, No, you need to teach me." And so she actually took my crystal clarity course. And in the process of taking that course, I remember she said to me, "Damn, girl, I had no idea that making a decision was, having clarity was this important. And it's not just a matter of yes or no. Because first things you have to define in all of this is your values and your beliefs. If you don't understand what your values are, you're going to be making a lot of big mistakes in your life. And in values, there are values that you have your non-negotiables. And that's the big part that a lot of people don't know. What are your non-negotiables in life? These are the things that you are not going to compromise on in any way, shape, or form. There are other things you'll say, all right, we can do that. It's not going to...
You'll compromise,
right?
yeah.
If you do that, it's not going to take much from you. It's not going to, it's not going to lower
your
level of integrity or your morality or whatnot.
Yeah.
So those are your non-negotiables. Then there are the other stuff. She goes, okay, now, you're blowing my mind. I never thought of any of this. And I said, yeah, most people don't. Most people don't think of that. You don't know what your values are. A young lady said to me once, she was talking to me about going on a date with some person they just met, and then she excitedly came back to me not like a week or so. She goes, "Guess what? We had sex." And I go, "You did? Are you sure you were ready for that?" And she goes, "Yeah, I mean, I've known him for a week." And I said, "Really? And you think you know somebody in 1 week?" And she goes, well, you know, I guess it's just about our values, or my values may be different from yours. So I said, okay, so what are your values? And she said, and she drew a blank. And I said, honey, if you don't know your values, then how do you know if you violated them? Mm-hmm. Right? And
how do you value yourself?
How do you value? But this is it.
Yeah.
You don't know what your values are. So how do you even know?
This is really I don't like to use the term trigger anymore. I say ignite. This is igniting some things, because like I find myself very like unattached sexually now in this stage of my life, because I'm searching for more than just sex.
Yeah.
So it's like and like the women I'm surrounding myself around now, they think I'm weird because I don't want to do those things. Like I'm emotionally, I don't even know if that's emotionally, like I want emotions, but it's like not the right emotions. Like I don't want to feel that way anymore. I don't want to just be so physical and be a horn dog or whatever. I'd rather just be by myself until I find like someone with substance, because I'm craving more now.
You see, that's the double standard right there, because it's okay for a woman to do that, right? But when a man does it, he's judged
soft.
and labeled.
I'm soft. I'm like, they think I'm gay. Like,
I literally wrote a script. I wrote a screenplay about that. It was all focused on this nice person. He knows exactly what he wants. He knows who he is. And he's not the one who's going to be jumping into bed with you, blah, blah, blah.
It's not fun anymore.
He values himself.
It's not fun anymore. Once you've seen it all, it's like, man, I've been missing out on some real, like... And I feel like the world that we're living right now, there's been a shift where like women are kind of like the men now.
Yeah,
and men are becoming more like however the women were looked at before. And a lot of men are being considered soft, or, you know,
it doesn't matter what they think about you.
It's just crazy right now.
It doesn't matter what they think about you. You do you, right? And this is something I always say to people: you do you, I'll do me. We're good.
But then there's these, like, I even speak with my manager, like, I feel like I'm gonna be alone sometimes. You know, like I don't know when.
No.
Like, it just feels scary. It feels scary because you want to be alone because you want that time to work on yourself, self-development. You want to grow. You're in this transitional stage of your life, and you know that that's a positive thing.
Yes.
But then this light bulb clicks. It's like, oh, I have to do this on my own. So there are moments where you're not necessarily doing it on your own. You have people around you that are are supporting you, but it feels lonely. Yeah. Because you don't have that partnership or that companionship to like be a soundboard for you, because steel sharpens steel. And if you don't, like, you just start to feel lonely, but you're like, oh, I have to do this on my own, because then I have to prepare for what's to come. But then you're like, you get into your head, when is that gonna be? How long do I have to stay by myself and work on myself? How much work? Do I have to do the amount of time I put into other people? Do I have to put the same amount of time in just me rolling solo? Like, you start to question everything, and you get into your head, you get depressed, you feel lonely, but it's all for the good of self-development, right?
Yeah.
So now, how do we operate under that?
So here's the question for you. Do you feel lonely, or you're just feeling alone? Because those are two different things, right? Being alone doesn't mean lonely.
I like to be alone.
It just means that it's
I don't like to feel lonely.
Absence of company.
Right.
Feeling lonely is a lack of purpose. Right? If you have purpose, if you have an idea what your purpose is, you're doing this for self-development. So there is a purpose to what you're doing. So you shouldn't be feeling lonely. You may feel alone, but loneliness is the lack of purpose. Right? So you know that what you're doing is for a purpose. And another thing I want to add, there's no rush. There is no rush.
That's what Carlos said to me.
The older the wine is the better it tastes. Okay? There is no rush. There's no rush. I haven't seriously dated anyone. Now I'm going to be telling you my business.
We're not sipping tea, ladies and gentlemen, but this is a platform where we could spill our personal teas, right?
And you know, hopefully it's going to be helping
Safe
somebody.
Space. Exactly.
I haven't seriously dated anyone in about 10 years. And that's a choice.
And there's power in choice.
I know now what I desire.
And your worth.
I know my worth, and I know what I desire.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of having clarity. Because when you know what you want, when what you don't want shows up, it's easy to say no. Bye.
Jesus.
Bye, Felicia. Hashtag bye, Felicia. It's easy to say bye.
Bye, Jerome.
Bye. And you do
Bye,
it.
Thomas.
You do it without feeling any remorse.
Yes.
Because you know what? You are not willing any longer to undervalue yourself just to be with someone.
Damn.
Right? You're going to pick up and be with some guy who doesn't understand you, doesn't know your worth, doesn't know your... When the purpose of a thing is not known, it will always be abused.
Unknowingly. Like you don't even...
You don't know.
You don't know the damage you're doing.
You don't know the damage you're doing. So if when the purpose of the thing is not known, there will always be abuse. I learned that from a man named Miles Monroe. He passed away a few years ago. And people, I think one of the key elements that's missing in relationships and forming relationships is the element of purpose is so important. So we meet somebody, I see you, I may think, wow, Arys is such a nice looking guy. And I think that's enough for us to base a relationship off of. But I'm challenging people to go deeper than that. Arys came into this earth packaged to fulfill a plan. I came into this earth packaged. And what do I mean by packaged? We have our own gifts, we have our talents, we have our personalities.
Flaws.
Everything.
Flaws, everything.
All of it.
Yeah.
And it's designed for something specific.
Jesus.
Now, if Arys and I don't know our purpose, we're going to get together and we're going to cause a catastrophe. When Arys and I both know our purpose and we know who we are, we value ourselves, and we have clarity about what we want, we can talk and we can say, you know what, you're a super nice person, but I don't think we should be dating each other, and it would be okay. Right? Because I don't think we're headed in the same direction. If you and I get together, I think that one of us is going to get pulled off course. And that's not what this is about. We're both supposed to be able to stay on course, supporting each other in our individual purposes. But this is such a key element that's missing for most people because no one taught us. Right? So we can't blame anybody. No one taught us. And we can't blame our parents, and we can't blame because they themselves didn't know. This is knowledge that's now being made known to us. Do you understand?
Yeah, there's a lack of... I do understand. There's a lack of... And I know it sounds so basic when you say a lack of communication, but if you look at it, it truly is. Like, no one speaks about these things. Like, when you come across someone that you're considering to be some sort of mate, or you're dating them, you're getting to know them, etc., and you end up in some sort of intimate relationship with them, like, a lot of questions aren't asked.
That's right.
A lot of questions aren't asked.
That's correct.
Like, how do you look at this? How do you define this? Who are you? How do you look at yourself? What does being in a relationship look like to you? What does love look like to you? How do you define? I keep saying this, like, one day you could be with someone, right? You yourself, and you meet this gentleman, and you two are working on building something together, and it's been fun. It's been like 8 months, and you've been having a blast. And then one day, you two roll over, and he says, I love you. You say, I love you too. You might be feeling that you've loved him for X amount of months, but maybe you've been waiting to see if he'll say it first. Either way, he has finally said it. You're happy, you're joyous, so I love you too. And then there's this moment where it's like, okay, we both have now established that we love each other. It shouldn't stop there. We shouldn't be content with knowing that someone loves me or vice versa, because now we have to find out, how do you love me? What does that love even look like? Like, we're two different people. So when you love me differently, very differently from how I love you, that's certain. But we forget that part because we're like, oh, love must mean the same thing for all of us. It's this umbrella thing, when it's really just a word that we're using to describe feelings. Feelings we probably don't even know how to describe or define. But we hear love and we automatically like, oh, okay, it's all cool. Like, yeah, he loves me or she loves me, so we're on the same page. You are not on the same page. And you're going to find that out in 10 months from now because you haven't had those conversations. You haven't asked those questions.
That's it.
So relationships, it's not it's not so like surfaced, especially when dealing with another being, another person who has their own brain, their own heart, set of eyes. You got to have these conversations.
It's important. It's necessary. Now, when someone say they love me, I ask them, how do you know? It's simple. Because I'm thinking about, I want to say to John that I love him, but how do I know that I really love him? I'm going to start asking myself that question. What are the things that define for me that I love John? And if I can't define those things, then I'm not ready to tell him I love him yet. Right? Until I can define that. John, the reason why, if you ask me, how do you know? I love you because I feel so much, I feel so safe when you're around. I enjoy your company. I love the way you respect me. I love that I miss you when you're not here. It's not a nice feeling, but I like that I miss you because then I know that you're really important to me. And if I can't define those things, then I'm not sure that I love John. You know, I must be able to say, this is why I love you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And for me too, one of the things that I've learned to do or not to do is to not focus so much on the feeling. Because you know what? Feelings fluctuate. But just because I'm feeling very heightened emotions about you today, and I may not be feeling it tomorrow, doesn't mean I don't love you today, you know, or tomorrow as much as I loved you yesterday. Feelings just fluctuate.
Yeah, they're supposed to. That's their purpose.
That's feelings. But this is where people make the mistake. Oh God, I'm not feeling him today. I'm not even sure if I love him. And I go, nah, I don't feel it. I don't think I love him. Bye. And you make a big mistake.
Trust me.
Right?
Yeah.
Love goes much deeper than the feeling. Right? Love is an action word, first of all.
Yes, yes.
Right? Love requires sacrifice.
Time.
Sacrifice.
Time.
Let's talk sacrifice, because most people don't even know sacrifice. If you love someone, you're going to sacrifice something for them. You understand? And if I'm not willing to sacrifice something for John, I don't love him. It's as simple as that. John, what are you willing to sacrifice for me? Right? No, and it goes both ways, because a lot of times we're looking at this from one perspective.
Yes.
Well, he didn't do this or she didn't do that, but what have you done? What have you done? Right? It goes both ways. Are you showing him with the same intensity that you love him as you expect him to show you? And the question is, have you, the kind of love that you're looking for, have you become that person?
Yes.
Have you become that person?
Do you feel those things about yourself?
Do you feel
love
that
yourself?
person?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because if you have not become that person, you will never attract that kind of love to you. So you first have to, and it goes right back to self-development.
Yes.
So this is what I'm saying. There's no rush.
There's no rush.
Take the time. You know what I mean?
I'm with you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Who and How Club. I got Karlene Millwood here sitting with me. We're talking about some deep stuff. We're talking about love, life, relationships, perspectives, how we define ourselves. If there's anything that you've heard so far that resonates with you, feel free to just, leave a comment in the post below. Let us know what you think, or you could always email us at whohowclub@gmail.com and touch base with us. At the end of the show, you'll get Karlene's contact info so that you could connect with her directly, but also visit whohowclub.com and just touch base with us. Let us know what you thought of the things that we're talking about or we spoke about today on today's episode, and just stay connected with us, because I'm certain there are people out there right now that can learn from all of the things that she is sharing and that I'm sharing, and we're sort of bringing all of these ideas and perspectives together. So shout out to everyone tuning in. Let's talk about, so we know who you are. We've gotten a good idea of who you are and how you define yourself. You speak about being a woman of God, and you kind of delved into that, which I truly appreciate, because I'm trying to learn what it means to be a man or a child of God, you know, and staying connected and keeping the faith. You know, how do you keep your faith in moments that your faith is being tested? How does a person who is aiming to be connected to our source, our higher power, our protector, our creator, you will be tested in your belief in that creator, because we know life down here is hard. It's difficult, very difficult. Sometimes, you're being challenged on a constant basis. I'm curious to know how you manage to keep that faith.
So I'm going to say that this is learned over time. For new believers, it will be difficult. If you've been doing it for a while, obviously it becomes a little bit easier. But I get challenged all the time, every day. I've had people challenge me to the point like, I don't even want to say XYZ to you, because if I say it, you're going to lose your faith. And I'm like, I'm too far gone, right? I've grown so comfortable with that part of me that I know that it's not going to be easy to knock me off of my my foundation.
Pivot,
my foundation.
Yeah.
So when my faith is challenged, I always go back to the Word of God, and I read the Bible a lot. I meditate on the Bible a lot. So in any situation I'm faced with, I always just dig deep within and go, okay, what does the Word of God say about this? Right now, everybody may not do it the same way as me, but this is how I do it. And I'll be in it's just okay. One of the places I get challenged a lot is in relationships, right?
Yes.
And I chose not to date seriously for, however long I said, the past 10 plus years. And it's not that I don't get asked out.
Yes.
Right? It's not that the prospects don't come.
Right.
But I vet them. I know what's required based on the Word of God.
Yes.
And if you're not meeting that criteria for me, it's going to be a no. So the challenge comes now by saying, so you're going to let some ancient book from way back when dictate your relationships for you? You could be missing out on a good thing, Yeah. I think I'm going to stick with God on this one. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I get challenged along those lines a lot.
What about when times get really hard for you? Like you say, is going back to the Word, the Bible, enough for you to stay strong and to snap out of it the moment you might feel like you're not losing your faith, but like, we get caught up in the worldly things sometimes. We forget that there's a bigger purpose. Everything happens for a reason, little things like that. But because we're challenged so often, we might lose that belief system that we've implemented because we're being challenged. Things are hitting us. They're coming in the form of another being. It's emotions, the fluctuation of the emotions, like today I feel down. That doesn't mean I'm angry.
No.
But our emotions it's a roller coaster.
It's just the way. That's why you can't even, you can't depend on them too much.
Right.
That used to happen to me a lot. Way back when I battled depression. I battled depression for a long time. I was on a lot of medication for depression, anxiety, sleeping pills, the whole 9 yards. And when I say sleeping pills, I'm talking about sleeping pills. It was a high dosage because I could not sleep. That's how deep my anxiety was. And there's a dude in the Bible. His name is David. And everybody knows David because he wrote the Psalms, right?
Oh, David from down the corner? I know.
No,
I know David.
I'm talking about David in the Bible.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about David in the Bible. King David. I said a dude in the Bible.
The Goliath David?
The Goliath David.
I know that story.
But if you look at David is a creative like you and me, right? He's a songwriter. He's a poet.
I've read that.
Right?
Yeah.
And David went through all of the things that we think we went through. He went through depression. He had a sexually transmitted disease. He slept with a man's wife and then killed the man to cover it up when she got pregnant. I'm like,
that boy got drama.
Yo, soap opera. You understand? But David, having done all of that, and God could still look at David and say, he's a man after my own heart. And I said, "Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. What you say? This man who has done so much wrong is a man after your own heart?" And in reading David's story made me realize that God don't look at me the way I look at me, right? So talking about the emotions and all of that, when I look at how David handled it, he has a scripture that says, "Why is my soul so cast down within me?" He was feeling depressed that day, right? "Why do I feel so sad?" And he went on and he listed how he was feeling. And at the end of it, he said, "But still, my hope is in God." He always ended it, "My hope is in God." Or, "I put my trust in God," right? So that's how he dealt with his depression, right? And David for me was a major catalyst in me dealing with some of those emotional challenges, right? When it comes, I'm like, wait a minute, there's nothing wrong with me really. It's just a feeling. Because I will tell you this, the medication that I was on for depression wasn't helping me. It was actually making me feel worse. And I remember the day like it was today. I sat in my living room as we're sitting here right now. And I was laying down, and then I got up and I go, what the heck is wrong with me? And I just, my mind just, it's like a switch went on. I go, no way. I'm an intelligent woman. I have a fantastic life. I looked around at my home and I said, look at my home, right? I did this on my own. There were no parents around to help me buy this house. I've been in my career for so long. I'm leading people at work. There's nothing wrong with me. What is going on? And it's almost like I took myself and shook myself by the shoulders and I'm like, wake up.
You stepped outside of yourself and looked at yourself from the outside looking in.
That's
like,
it.
Wake up.
And Arys, I threw out the pills that day. The depression pills, I threw them away. I never took another one from that day till today. But I kept the sleeping pills because I still couldn't sleep without them.
Right.
And I remember one night I was challenged. I went to church and my pastor started preaching about no child of God should be taking sleeping pills. And I'm like, is what wrong with him? The Jamaican came out. Is what wrong with him? Or where him come from? Just because you're a child of God, you can't. What you mean? Child of God have problems too. You know, the Jamaican came out.
I'm dying right now.
The Jamaican came out.
You're
And
killing
I'm
me.
just like, no. But here's this. It was a catalyst for me again.
Yes.
Because when he said that, he says, you're not trusting God. Whatever it is, that inability to fall asleep means you're worrying about something, and God is telling you that you shouldn't fear.
Your
right?
brain is going.
Yeah. You're anxious. You're worried about something. And
Overthinking.
all of that. And I said, okay. I went home and I had a conversation. No, I had an argument with God. And not a conversation. I had an argument. And here's the argument. I took the bottle of pills and I said, okay, I'm not supposed to be taking these because I'm your child. Well, watch me and you tonight, God. And I took the pills that, watch me now. I opened the toilet. I poured them in. And I said, good, now make me sleep. And I went into the bed and I laid down. And I did not sleep for the whole night. Couldn't go to work the next day. And the next day and the next day because I had no pills. But I will tell you this, by the following week, I was able to fall asleep and I slept 2 hours. And 2 hours turned into 4 hours.
Gradually, yeah.
And 4 hours turned into 6 hours. Nowadays, if I told somebody that I used to not be able to sleep, they wouldn't believe me because
you look very well rested. And what I'm gonna triggering me is that I'm in the stage of life I cannot sleep.
You see?
Because I'm in this stage of life, this transitional stage, this overthinking, this worry, this challenge in my faith, this being alone versus feeling lonely. And the lack of sleep is messing with my moods.
Of course, it will.
So I'm trying to manage that, and just like everything you're saying I can relate to. I've never been on medication. Okay. I am in therapy.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I wanted to ask, like, would you ever suggest to someone to be on any kind of medication? Because you had that revelation. You're like...
But you know what, though? It's different for different people.
Right.
My journey is different from somebody
else's. I wouldn't,
else's.
Regardless of your suggestion. I'm just saying for the people.
No.
Yeah.
My journey is different from someone else's journey.
Right.
And I would never tell someone not to take medication when it comes to their illness or whatever.
Yes.
Because I don't know. It's a personal thing between you and God now.
Yes.
Right? we each have an in with God. We can talk to him and we can ask him for direction. And that's what I would suggest that someone does. For me personally nowadays, I don't take pharmaceuticals. I will put it that way. So if I go to the doctor and the doctor prescribes something to me, I go to my naturopathic doctor. And I said, this is what the doctor prescribes. This is the problem. Can we find a natural solution for this? Because this is how I was brought up. Okay, I never took medication as a child. My grandparents were always boiling this bush or this root or this something. You understand? Yeah. So it's kind of hard for me to do that now. And so if someone is in a situation where they're taking medication, really go to God and ask him, because you can. Right? And if you feel like you don't want to take it, ask him to deliver you, to set you free from taking that, or give you wisdom on what else to do. Yes. Exactly.
What other route to take to deal with them.
Yeah. In terms of the anxiety and the overrunning of your mind, again, I always go back to the scripture. Because he says, do not be anxious about anything. Right? With prayer and supplication, make your requests known. So whatever it is that is on your mind, talk to him. Bring it to him, no matter how small you think it is. That's how I got through a lot of stuff. Okay, this might be inconsequential, but I think I should ask you this because it's bothering me. And I don't pray like most people pray. Dear Heavenly Father, with hands clasped.
On your knees, yeah.
I don't do that. I talk to God as I'm talking to you.
Same. That's right? The transition of my prayer has become that. Like, I have to walk around and speak out loud. Yeah. Speaking to yourself is speaking with God.
Absolutely.
Like it's a form of prayer. I think even dancing and music is a form of prayer and praise, you know? Like, I think that connects you. Art connects you to the higher.
Listen.
Higher.
Everything can become, what should I call it? A way to talk to him. It's the meaning that you ascribe to the thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you and I can look at something and we can ascribe different meanings to it. Right? Because somebody can see when to them it's evil, to me it's good. It's about the quality of our thoughts.
Yes.
And the quality of our thoughts is based on what we're feeding ourselves.
Yes.
Right? So it depends. David danced a lot, and this is what I mean. David really had an impact on me and the way I lived my life and how I got out of stuff. King David in the Bible, he danced a lot. He loved to dance. He danced until his clothes fell off. He was naked in the streets, and his wife got mad and left him. So I'm not even talking. So I'm looking at all of those people, and we may look at them as far off, and because the Bible talks about them, we're thinking they're ever so holy and we can't be like them. They're just regular people like us. And they were just included in the Bible as examples that, hey, these people went through this and this is how they dealt with it, and this is how they used their faith. Right? And I use that to fuel my faith.
Yes.
And when my faith gets challenged, I go back and I see, how did David deal with it? How did Joshua deal with it? How did Deborah deal with it? Right? Deborah was in that time when women were considered the second class of society. Deborah was a military leader, right? And a judge. That doesn't happen in that society because it was a man-held positions.
Yes.
But she was a military leader and a judge, and I'm like, yo, serious, that's some deep stuff. I go read up about Deborah when I want to learn about, women in leadership and stuff like that. So this Bible, it's for me a very foundational book. It doesn't mean that I don't read other stuff. I am an avid reader. I'm always reading something. One of my favorite books, as a matter of fact, is from a guy named T. Harv Eker. I don't know if you know who he is. It's called Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. And that audiobook is on repeat in my house, in my car, wherever I am. It is such a fantastic book. So I do listen to other things. And I would say to people, if you're a Christian and, you think that the only book you have to read is the Bible, I would caution you to read other things, to bring context to some of the things that you're reading in the Bible, right? Yes. Because other than that, you're going to be just one-dimensional.
Yes.
And we are multidimensional beings.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We're layered.
We are.
And you are you're a layered individual. So I just want to say thank you for speaking your truth and being so transparent with us today.
Thank you.
Because being so layered, the conversation and the connection could go on forever.
Forever, right?
And I feel like today's episode, it's really going to benefit someone.
I hope
even
so.
if it's just one person.
I hope so.
So I want to get into this new thing that I'm trying on the show, which is sort of like a lightning round.
Okay.
Where I just throw some random questions out and you sort of respond with like a one word or like one short sentence answer.
Okay.
And we just vibe off of that.
All right.
All right.
Lightning round.
Cool with that?
Cool. Lightning round. All right.
So, what is your purpose?
My purpose is to help others become a higher version of themselves.
When you think about your life, growing up, what were like your top 2 inspirations growing up?
My top 2 inspirations, it can be anything or people.
Or people, yeah.
One was my stepfather. I love him dearly. And 2 was music.
Yeah. What kind of music?
I just loved music. I remember one of my favorite groups to listen to as a child was the I3s. That's Bob Marley's wife and 2 other women. They used to sing backup for Bob Marley.
I remember.
Way back when.
Yeah.
I loved listening to the I3s. And there were some songs that they released from back when that I still listen to today.
Yes.
Their music had so much meaning to me as a child. I may not have grasped it in its fullness.
Yes.
But as an adult now, I'm like, okay, so I didn't understand this when I was a kid, but I did have some really good taste in music. So yeah.
Music.
Yeah, I loved music, and I always like Rastaman music. I love Rastafarian music,
The message is in there.
Yes.
The messages are in there.
Yes.
Where is Karlene going?
That's a very broad question. I am going to exactly the destination that God wrote for me. What is that destination? I don't know, but I'm just willing to follow and find out. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. You don't always see the full journey ahead of you, but as you walk, the path becomes clearer and you see where you're going.
So where has Karlene been in that sense?
Now, I have been... I've lived an interesting life, I must say. I've been living in Canada for over 30 years, and I have gone through a major change in careers and, family situations. My mom is no longer with me. She passed away. My favorite aunt also passed away. So if you want to talk, if I was in the space where I didn't know who I was anymore, I would definitely be feeling a little bit lonely right now. But I lived in Montreal, moved here, so that was a big transition. So that's talking about where I've been. I worked in computers, in technology for 20 years. My undergrad is in computer science. My master's is in business. I'm an MBA. And after 20 years, I got let go from my career, and I had to now decide, what am I going to do in my life? And so I decided, instead of going back to corporate, and there's a lot of divine guidance along this path. So it's not just me getting up and making these decisions, divine guidance. And this is how I started entrepreneurship and ended up building Karlene Millwood International. I did have my production company before I left corporate, where I used to every year stage live jazz shows. And the proceeds from those shows would go to a scholarship that I have in Jamaica at the primary school that I used to attend. The purpose of that scholarship is to help students transition from primary to high school, because it's very expensive out there to send children to school. And so that scholarship would cover the full first year of school for them, kind of alleviating the strain on the parents for a while, because it's going to be a little bit of a shock, because it's going to cost maybe 2-3 times as much as sending them to primary school. So we take that load off of them for the first year, and that includes transportation, uniform, shoes, books, whatever it requires. The principal and I worked it out. This is what it costs for transportation. This is what lunch costs without scrimping on the money. So I have an idea of what it costs for a full year to send a child to school. And so I do the fundraising, and I send the money out there, and that child's way is paid for the first full year. I've had 6 people go through the program so far. One of my favorite moments is when the scholarship was awarded to the son of one of my former classmates from that primary school. So, and the second is when it was awarded to my stepbrother, my stepfather's son. So, you know, for me, those were very proud moments. Then I did my first theatrical production. It was titled Forgiven. That was many years ago. And opened up on opening night. I had about 300 people in the room, and I was blown away. You know what I mean? So it ran over the weekend, and people are still talking about it. I see people still, are you going to be doing the part 2? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm just like, yeah, people still want to do the part 2. They fell in love with some of the characters. There are 2 characters. They want to see them get married, so they want me to do a part 2 to that. Maybe on screen, I'll do it. I transitioned from stage, and at the time when I got let go, I moved to Vancouver, and I went to the Vancouver Film School. Decided to pursue something that I'm passionate about, which is writing and movies. I didn't exactly know how I want to put them together, but I entered the Writing for Film and Television program, intensive 1-year program, and graduated from that, and actually graduated with the Dean's Award. Go figure. Since then, co-produced 1 short, which was a school project, and then I wrote, directed, produced my own short film, right? And did a few acting gigs, got myself a primetime commercial at one point, playing a doctor for Bayview Children's Hospital. And so yes, that part of my life is still very much there, because there are things that I'm working on in the background that I won't talk about right now. And then I have the other business, which is my consulting business, where I help people in their entrepreneurship journey and personal development journey and all of that stuff. So coming from there to here, I was born and raised in Jamaica, and now I'm living in Canada. So huge transitions in my life. So that's where I've been. This is where I am right now.
And many accolades under your belt. So I want to congratulate you.
Thank you
on
very
all of
much.
those successes.
Thank you so much.
What does life mean to you?
Life means being awake. And I don't necessarily mean being awake out of sleep. It means being conscious and coming to higher levels of consciousness all the time. Because if you're not doing that, then you're simply existing. You're not living life to the fullest. And for me, it's all about living life to the fullest. I talk about being purposeful and living life with intention. Unfortunately, not too many people are doing that, right? Statistics show that only 8% of the population are actually successful in their life's endeavors. The other 92% aren't successful, not because some of them aren't trying, but most of them aren't awake to be able to do that. So for me, I want to be a part of the 8%, where I'm actually living life intentionally, and I'm doing something to push humanity forward. If not, then my whole life on earth would be useless, because we're all here to inspire each other to become better versions of ourselves, right? So if what I'm doing is not helping somebody, then it doesn't make sense. So for me, that's life.
And how does one step out of their ordinary?
Well, that begins with a simple thing called choice. It takes a choice. You just have to make a decision one day that I've had enough of this and I want to change. You may not even know what change looks like, but all you know, I'm ready for change now. And what that requires, though, is you must have an idea of what you would like your life to look like and who you would like to become, right? Those are like guiding posts for you. So if you're not the person that you would like to become, you can make the decision right now. I am going to change. If you know who you would like to become, what's the first step in becoming that person? And you start there. If you know where you want to go in life, what's the first step for me to do that? What will it take for me to get there? And you start doing the first thing. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So it's a step-by-step process.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You've defined what you do and how you view yourself. And if people wanted to connect with you, whether it's on a professional level or on a deep level, personal level, how can they get in touch with you?
First, I would send them to my website, www.karlenemillwood.com. Karlene Millwood, KarleneMillwood, www.karlenemillwood.com. There are lots of forms there that you can reach out to me, connect with me on, or you can email my general inbox, which is info@karlenemillwood.com, and my assistant will always pick up the messages and send them to me. If at some point you send me a message and it's necessary for us to communicate on a one-on-one level, then I will give you my personal contact information at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So KarleneMillwood.com, ladies and gentlemen. I was just making sure that I had it here as well. Touch base with Karlene and, have just pick her brain, because clearly she has a lot to offer when it comes to self-development and self-growth and entrepreneurship and perspectives on business and the art field as well. You've definitely inspired me today in today's conversation.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate you, especially the conversation about God and David. You're going to make me go and look into some of these stories that I've kind of strayed away from and stayed away from. The book, the Bible hasn't really served much of a purpose in my life, but it still intrigues me, and I'm sure that there are things in there that I've probably experienced in my life that I could probably draw reference from that
Absolutely.
Someone else experienced in there.
Yeah.
So
Most people think the Bible is irrelevant because of how it's been taught to them.
right.
They haven't been taught how to find the real deeper meanings in what's written there. So I definitely get what you're saying. I felt that way about it for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into it. I'm not gonna knock it before I indulge.
Oh, you can
in
always
it.
call me. Hey, I'm reading this in the Bible
Yeah,
and I don't understand it.
What's your interpretation of this? I'm sure I'm sure I'll find meaning in it in some way, shape, or form.
That's okay. It's a personal journey.
Exactly. I think my mom kind of forced it on us a lot growing up, so that's why as I grew older I strayed away. But
it has to be something that you gravitate to on your own. It cannot be forced on you.
definitely.
Yeah.
So here's the section of the show where we have like this Ask the Club component where our guests have the opportunity to pose questions. They bring it to the table and to the club, and if people resonate with those questions, they could also give their own responses like online and stuff like that.
Okay.
So this is your opportunity to kind of run the show while I take a step back.
Oh, right. No.
So
Interviewee hat off, interviewer hat
Interviewer,
on. Okay. So curious to know. I like your show. I've listened to several of I think I've listened to almost all the episodes, maybe except the last two.
thank you.
What was your inspiration to start the show?
My inspiration was really, I wanted to, before podcasting, I have this thing where like I see things.
Mm-hmm.
I know that things are about to like pop.
Mm-hmm.
And before it became what it is right now, like podcasting has always been around, but it's on a different scale. Everyone and their grandmother has a podcast, but it's still not as vast as people think it is. You have those mainstays like the Joe Rogans and stuff like that, but they've been podcasting forever. Before people even acknowledged their existence. So I knew that it would become something. I saw it, so I wanted to get involved in it early, and I had this idea of creating a show for the youth that I was working with at the time at an organization, and this was some odd years ago. I didn't get a chance to see that program materialize, but the podcast bug was still in me. So I said, how am I gonna? And I was gonna conduct that show like from behind the scenes. I wasn't going to be a host, or I wanted to produce really early. So, but after that, I just said, you know what? How can I still continue with this this energy that I have inside of me? Like, what kind of platform can I create where I can speak with the people? And these conversations that I'm having in private environments, I wanna hopefully inspire others. I do believe that we're our own philosophers. We're very stuck on. Maybe stuck isn't the right term to use, but we use the teachings of the past so much in our present that we don't realize that we're our own philosophers in the now. We don't embrace that because it's so far from us to even fathom that thought. Like, I could never be that. I can't, right? Only, Socrates, that's it, that's it. It stops there. I could never be something like that. But I do believe that we are that in our present. We just have to embrace that and teach the world based on what we're experiencing, because we don't realize that they were teaching us. They weren't even teaching. They were just being themselves.
Exactly.
And expressing themselves based on what they were going through and their perspectives. We have those same opportunities today.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to teach something. I wanted to give something back to the community. And all those private conversations that I've had, I've wanted to share it with the world. These perspectives, these difference in perspectives, being able to walk away from a conversation that you might not agree with, but still unharmed,
mm-hmm.
and still being able to exist within the same room and environment with
Absolutely.
that individual or that group of people. So just and we're the who's and how's of this world is
Absolutely.
What I always say. So
and I like that you said that. And talking about being our own philosophers, because you're just right on par with me. In July, what's now August? So in June,
mm-hmm.
I posted a challenge on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to smile at this, because the challenge was for 30 days, instead of posting things that other people have written or quoting what other people said, how about you post original content only?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, and I said this in my post, I feel like we're too dependent on what other people have said. How about we create, and we're going to be leaving a deficit for the generation that's coming up, right? So how about we create something and leave it for them? How many people do you think participated?
I would pray many.
If I can count it on my one hand. I had about 20 people jump on and go, oh yeah, I'm in, I like the idea. 5 people actually stepped up to the plate. 5 people. And it brings back to me what I said to you before. One of the hardest things on the planet to change is the mind, because we become so caught in the comfort zone, that area of comfort. This is the way we've been doing it for all this time.
Yeah.
The ordinary. And God forbid someone should introduce something new to you. It just feels like too much work to think differently.
Damn.
And this is why 92% of the population is where it is, while only 8%. Because they were willing to push out of the ordinary, while the rest aren't. Right? So I get you. I get you.
Thank you.
I get you in that.
Thank you.
So, I have one more question for you. You're on a journey, you say. And from what you described, you're a visionary, because you can see things. That's a visionary right there. So you can say, I'm a visionary.
Yeah.
That's what visionaries do. They see things way down the road.
Yeah.
Who are you becoming?
Who am I becoming?
Mm-hmm.
I have to be honest. I don't know.
Okay.
And that I know who I want to become.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm.
Okay, so let me ask you. Let me ask you this. You know who you want.
I do feel lost.
Wait.
I feel lost.
You feel lost?
A bit. Yeah.
You know who you want to become.
Yes. And I know I'm going to.
No.
But I don't know.
So here's
when
the thing that I was saying. If you know who you want to become, you're not lost, because that's your end goal. So, who are you becoming? If you know who you want to become, that's the person you're becoming. So tell me who he is.
He's a mogul.
Okay.
He's a podcast tycoon.
Mm-hmm.
A leader.
Mm-hmm.
A father. Just a boss. Like, I'm at the helm of, like, my creations.
Okay.
And a giver.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to the point where I give what I've created, like my legacy, to others to conduct and to operate without my involvement, because I trust them so much. Like, I'm trusting, I'm less stubborn. I still want to keep my stubbornness because it helps me, but not to the point where it's detriment to myself or others. I'm free, on all levels, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're not lost at all. The path may not be clear, but it doesn't mean you're lost, right? And if the path isn't clear, it just means that you need to take one more step. Have you ever been driving in fog or walking in fog? You can't really see in front of you. But as you walk through, you realize that, hey, wait a minute, I'm walking through this thing, but it's kind of clear as I step into it. So that's what you have to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know the saying, you are the Who and How Club, I am the Who and How Club, and we are the who's and how's of this world. Without you, without me, there is no we. And today we pretty much presented the definition of what we looks like. All right, we shared perspectives, we picked each other's brains, and we just spoke about some really deep stuff. This is a safe space where we can express ourselves freely, even when you disagree. You can walk out of these conversations unscathed. And we pray, I know Karlene and I both pray that we have inspired someone today. Even if it's just one, that's more than enough. And
Exactly.
we thank the higher above for bringing us here together today to sit across from one another and to just have a open conversation, open dialogue about things that we've been through. This isn't the last time you'll be on the show.
Oh, that's
because I
nice.
know you could be on. We could talk forever, you and I. It's just you and I talking, really. These mics are just here in front of us, right? So thank you once again.
You're welcome.
If you want to connect with Karlene, touch base with her on our website, karlenemiller.com. Millwood. I'm sorry. I don't know why. I said Millwood earlier numerous times. I don't know why I have Miller on my brain. Karlene Millwood, and whohowclub.com is the website, or you could touch base with me at only one Arys, ONLY, the number one, ARYS, and let's stay connected, ladies and gentlemen. Any last or final messages that you want to leave to the world, whether it revolves around entrepreneurship, self-development, self-discovery, whatever? Any last message or last words?
I would just want to say the world is looking for you. I don't know who you are, but somebody's life is dependent on you. So it's time for you now to get up and do something different.
And there you have it. KarleneMillwood.com, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in a week.
Thank you for having me on the show, Arys.
1.